Hey guys, I'm CJ. This is the Long Box for July 10th, and you're watching the first episode for Retro Month. Alrighty, so this week we've got Justice League issue 22, which is part 1 for the Trinity Wars, which is our new comic this week. As for our retro comics, we have Justice Machine issue 1 from the mid-1980s, the Batman The Killing Joke, written by Alan Moore, and Batman A Death in the Family, issues 426 to issues 429, so the entire series. Hey, let's start off with our new comic, Justice League issue 222. So, okay, spoiler warning right off the hop, Superman kills someone. Yeah, it's really weird. And then we're kind of told, / they hint at, oh, well, you know, maybe it wasn't Superman because there's this chick who can control people. We get to see Pandorica again. We see that, you know, her and Diana aren't exactly on a friend-friend basis. And then there's like, some people think that Pandora made him do it, others think that he did it on his own, but he pretty much, Superman pretty much goes off and kills Dr. Light. Holy shit. If you plan on picking up or starting off the Trinity War, you need to get this issue right now. Like, wow, this just, it blew me all the way. It did start off a little bit slow at the very beginning, but it did work things into it. The Justice League and the Justice League of America finally have their confrontation that people have been waiting for multiple issues for them to finally have. And I guess now Captain Marvel, or as DC is now calling him, Shazam, apparently inhabits the same universe as the Justice League, even though according to the graphs on the internet that the Marvel family and the Shazam characters live in a completely different universe. But okay, sure. Overall, really great issue. Definitely go out and get it. And now, our first retro comic, Justice Machine. This should be noted that this will only be a review of issue 1, and that the entire series would take way too much time to do in one episode. But next episode, I do plan on reviewing issue 2. This is very much the stereotypical 80s comic book. Very, I guess, He-Man-esque storyline. We are introduced to several different characters. What I really like about this comic is they actually had a character index on the inside of the cover page, which I thought was really nice. I find that far too often there are comic books where some people just aren't that familiar with the characters, and there's nothing telling people, you know, this is who this character is. One of the things I do want to point out that is flawed with this issue, and during the time it was published, this wasn't really considered a big thing back then, or at least from the amount of 80s comic books that I've read, it didn't seem to be a very big thing back then, is they go off in the first issue starting to reveal like big plot points and twists to the story plot, like for example, you know, this person is this other person's daughter, but he doesn't actually know yet, and it's kind of like, well, gee, thanks for coming out and telling us that story, because that's pretty much what it does. Overall, I really did like it. Not quite as much as the part 1 for the Trinity War, but I did like this one, nevertheless. And it, you know, it was pretty good. Not a, you know, go out and buy it now, like the part 1 for the Trinity War, but still good. I would give this a Netflix. Again, it is this stereotypical, you know, 80s comic book, so you should bear that in mind when you go to pick this up. That's just, you know, that's just what it is. Okay, Batman, The Killing Joke. This book is the book that started it all, and before we get any further, there is something that I do want to show you guys. So the cover you see here is actually a dust jacket, and this is one of the things that makes me really love the trade paperback. So I'm going to take this dust jacket off, and I'm not sure how well it's going to show up on the camera, but here we have a nice purple. It almost looks like saran wrap from the shine it gives off, but we have Batman actually like choking out the Joker, and then on the back side we have a very nice photo of I'm guessing it's some kind of playing card, but it's like one of the face cards, like the Joker or the Queen or the King or whatever. And on one half we have the Joker, and there's a J, and there's the club symbol, and then on the bottom we have the Batman. There's a little B for Batman, and there's also the club symbol there. So I really liked the artwork that DC decided to do for the trade paperback. This was about $20 Canadian. So either way, either price, it's like roughly $20. Our price is like $3 more or something. But anyways, very nice cover. So I'm just gonna put that there. This was a big game changer for DC Comics. This was a little bit before this, or after this, I could be mistaken. But roughly within the same time period. This was the same time that Jason Todd got killed. So yeah, spoiler warning for the next review. In this book, Batman takes down the Joker, and he says, you know, you're getting sloppy. You used to be, you know, really good at leading me on to these things. What's happened to you? And the Joker's just kind of like, oh, well, and gets all upset. And then the Joker goes out of his way to try and prove that anyone can go crazy, and this is how he does it. So he shows up at Barbara Gordon's, I guess it's her apartment, or her house, or it looks like an apartment. But anyways, he shows up at her house, and she answers the door, and she thinks it's her father, Jim Gordon. She's like, "Oh, hi, Dad." Then she sees the Joker, and she's like, "Oh shit." And then the Joker just pulls the trigger, like, doesn't say a word, just pulls the trigger and shoots her in the spine, which is the start of Barbara Gordon becoming Oracle. But that's something for a different time. And we see that kind of transgression into, and like this is all done off scene, but he actually takes off all Barbara Gordon's clothes and starts photographing her naked. And so of course Jim Gordon, because he's still the police commissioner at this time, gets a phone call like, yeah, we stopped by your daughter's place or your place or whatever, and we found your daughter and she's naked, and yeah, we thought you might want to know about this. So he of course drives down and he's like, oh my god, what's going on, and sees that his daughter is of course on the floor. She's been shot, she's bleeding. They've stopped the bleeding. She's gonna be okay, and like Batman shows up and he's like, yeah, I'm so sorry, Jim, this is all my fault. And Jim just kind of looks at him like, yeah, it kind of is your fault, but I'm gonna go kill the Joker, and then like walks out of the room. And then he goes to, I guess his plan was, I'm just gonna go shoot the Joker in his face, which didn't work, and the Joker actually winds up taking him prisoner, kind of, and ties him up, and sticks him in this cart, and like starts showing pretty much this slideshow of everything. And in this book, we finally see Batman 100% lose it on the Joker, because the Joker just looks at him at the end and is like, well, anyone can go crazy, right? And then Batman starts laughing. I'm like, okay. And then we see, the very same picture that's on the cover here. And that's pretty much it. This book is, if you are a Batman fan and you like the pre-52 stuff, this is definitely one that you need to pick up. Even if you don't like the pre-52 stuff, this is definitely one that you need to go pick up. So, Batman, The Killing Joke, you know what? I'm giving it a go and buy it now, because this was an awesome book back in the 80s. It's still an awesome book now. I don't care what anyone says about it. You guys need to go out and get this. Alrighty, so A Death in the Family. Unfortunately, I do not have the trade paperback with me because Longball currently has it because he has to borrow it. Okay, so in A Death in the Family, this is the basic premise for it, is that Jason Todd, at this point, a lot of fans were really starting to hate the character, and DC decided, okay, you know what, let's let the fans put the money where their mouth is. We're going to make this 4-part storyline, and if they want him dead so much, we will let them decide. The whole story, the whole premise on the story is based around Jason Todd looking for his birth mother. And issue 1, it sets it up. He goes back to his old neighborhood because, him and Batman got into a fight, and he's kind of moping around. And then we see this older woman, stick her head out, and she looks and she's like, Jason, is that you? Oh, I have a bunch of your parents' stuff. You should come up and get it. So he comes up and gets the stuff and finds out that the woman who he thought was his mom was not actually his mother, which DC kind of retconned out of existence in the New 52. It's really uncertain and confusing. But anyways, so he starts, he goes to India and then Africa, and then in, I think it's Nigeria, he finds his mom. And only to be betrayed by her in issue 3, I think it was, to the Joker. Because the Joker's kind of pissed off at Jason because, he wants him dead, because Jason put him in jail. And he decides, well, I'm going to beat you to death with a crowbar, and beats him to death, ties up his mom, leaves both of them in a warehouse, and blows up the warehouse on top of them. This was a really big stunt by DC. This has so far been the only time the fans have been allowed to decide the fate of one of their characters, and the media blew up over it. There were people at DC being called, murderers, and supporting that, murdering a child is okay, and, just the typical bullshit that Fox News normally, shouts out everywhere, please don't sue us. And, it's just, that's pretty much what happens. Overall, really good story. I don't like what happened because Jason Todd, is my favorite Robin. He is. I will willingly go out and say that Jason Todd is my favorite Robin. I felt that was unnecessary, what they did. And if you go back and read issue 425, which I believe is the issue right before A Death in the Family, you see at the end of it, Robin looks at Bruce and he says, you know what, Bruce, you're right. I need to stop being such a jerk. And, we see that Jason is finally starting to change. And the same thing happened with Damian, where Damian was like, you know what, Dad, you're right. I need to stop being such a jerk. So, I'm going to change. And they go and kill him off. The only difference was that the fans went and killed Jason. And here's the thing, though. The fans didn't even really kill Jason because someone, I cannot remember the guy's name, but he actually came forward and admitted, yes, I stuffed the inbox, I called repetitively, and, I did try to call DC Comics back the next day and tell them, I lied, I'm sorry, this is what happened. For whatever reason, he wasn't able to get through, though. So, really, when you think about it, so that means about 10 to 20 years of comic book history for that character was completely wiped off. Because only something like, it was really odd, like 60 votes or something was what separated it, which isn't really a lot when you think of the fact that voting was both all across the US and Canada. So, 65 votes separating his death or him living, that's not a whole lot. One of the things I do like about the trade paperback is the fact that in the trade paperback, we have the next 5-part story arc, A Lonely Place of Dying, where Tim Drake is introduced, which was nice. So, overall, this is definitely, especially if you're going to go get the trade paperback, this is something you need to go pick up. I believe it's about $20 or $30. I could be mistaken. This has been the Long Box. Of course, I'm CJ, and I guess I'll see you guys in 2 weeks from now, because Noah will be doing the next episode by himself. Bye!